Chad, if Garrett can't go, how different are you guys offensively? What have you thought of Nicco so far?
Well, he's come in offensively. Obviously we got to be able to run the ball, take pressure off of him, and find a way to get some easy completions for him. Identity-wise, will still be the same. He's come in the last two opportunities he had to come in. When Garrett's went out, he's done well, and both times have been unexpected, where he didn't have time to prepare for it and had to go out there and do it. So this will be the first opportunity he has if Garrett can't go, where he has to prepare for it and think about it. And so the biggest thing for us this week is going to be to calm him down and keep the game plan simple for him and find some easy ways to get him some easy completions and get his confidence going.
You mentioned when you went through the transition of when you found out Garrett wasn't going to be able to go, you look at your call sheet, the things that Nicco does well, and then you kind of gauge the game and then kind of see, okay, how's the game going? The defense is playing well, then kind of pare things down. Talk about that process of how you guys discuss that amongst yourself, and then maybe gauge Nicco, the things that he felt comfortable doing.
You mean during the game?
Right. 'Cause it all happened.
Yeah, it happened. It happened abruptly too. It was real quick, and we had to make some changes immediately. But the biggest thing, we stuck to the game plan as far as the run game went, and so we kept it really simple with him as far as the pass games. Really just kind of stuck to the RPOs that he's really comfortable with. And that's pretty much what we stuck with. Not necessarily having the game plan for him per se. As far as throwing the ball, he's really good at RPO games. So, we immediately went to that for him. That kept him relaxing. He made a couple completions doing that. So, and he does really well.
How different do you think Nicco would be with a full week of practice versus the 2 times he's gotten in his spells?
I'd say different in the sense where he'll be a little more prepared to go out there and be able to execute more of the game plan than what he's been able to do in the 2 times he's had the opportunity to go in the game, because he'll have all week to prepare for it. And he's a football junkie. He loves it, man, and he'll spend just about every day in his office outside of required time and position meetings and practice with Coach Reagan, going over that game plan over and over. So, he'll be able to do a lot more than what he has in the past 2 opportunities he's had, knowing that he'll have more time to prepare for it.
Like he doesn't get rattled.
He does, man. And I tell you, and that's surprising for the kid, because obviously, when he came in last year, it was a big game. It was early morning, big game. He had no idea it was going to happen, and you wouldn't have known who was the quarterback in the game, the way he managed the game. And even obviously, Saturday night was a big, huge game, and for him to come in and never got rattled, made a few mistakes and had a next play mentality, and that's one thing I kept emphasizing to him in the game, and play the next play. You got guys around. That's the beauty of it, too. We got guys around him that can make plays for him, so he doesn't have to, take all of it on himself. So the guys did a great job rallying behind him and protecting him and allowing him to go out there and be himself.
Is that kind of the message to him? Hey, trust your guys. You don't have to win the game. Trust the game plan, trust the players around you, and manage it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. Manage the game. Don't lose the game for us. Just take care of the ball. That was the biggest thing. Take care of the ball. And obviously we had one incident where he dropped the snap and we lost that one. But outside of that, take care of the football. Don't lose the game for us, and put the ball in play and allow the guys around you to make the plays for you.
What's your conversation like with CJ after the penalty? Great run, bad day. I mean, are the things you can tell us that are PG-13?
Yeah, I can't tell you the thing that I was that I actually said to him, but same time though, he understood. The best thing about that kid, he's smart. He understands it. He knew he made the mistake before I even got to him. So when the guys have that kind of self-awareness where they know the mistakes they made before the coach get on to them. I mean those kind of responses you want. He took ownership for it, but he obviously can't do that. Man, I tell you, I was so proud of that kid, man. He was in the zone. If I'm talking about from pregame meal, he was in the zone. We talked about him running angry and, being, having a different level of determination to be, refuse to be denied yards. I mean, he ran hard. I mean, not only did he ran hard, he ran efficiently. He averaged 5.7 yards a carry. And so he ran efficiently, ran hard. He had yards after contact. I mean, he was in his zone on top of having a stacked box. I mean, I think we ran the ball total 51 times, and I mean it was like running against goal line defense every snap. So for him to be able to find yards beyond what was blocked, and also be able to find some yards beyond just 4 or 5 yards was really good. Really proud of the way he ran. I believe he was. He was, and and I thought he had an opportunity to hit a big one too, and he had a good explosive run, but he did. And those guys feed off each other, man. But yeah, he did have an opportunity to do that, and he did some good things.
Good teams can put to bed good wins quickly and move on. Does it help that you've got Texas Tech in front of you, and it seems like all your guys are aware of the struggles that you've had against them?
Absolutely, and those guys are ready to move on. Heck, yesterday, when they were all coming in, they'll check in for treatment and get their meals. They were all ready to put that one to bed and get going on Texas Tech yesterday. Very mature group. Understand, the challenges and the issues we had in the past with those guys, and the opportunity that we got this week, and who we are now as a football team, and how much we've grown and how much they've grown together as a football team. So no problem putting that away. I mean, those guys are ready to move on.
What's been the biggest issue offensively when you played them?
Not executing. And when I say not execute, not being able to, control the trenches, like we have here, last week, for example, and not being able to pitch and catch. We had some one-on-one opportunity we had in the past, and we haven't been able to come down with those 50-50 balls. And so those are the two things that we got to be able to come out and do. And I'm talking about do it early and now and consistently. Is be able to control the trenches, be able to run the football effectively, get downhill, and then we got to be able to pitch and catch. Got to be able to make contested catches as well.
After Nicco's fumble, we saw CJ go back and pick him up and put his arm around him.
Yeah.
Like that. Say about it.
That's huge, man, and those are the things. That's the togetherness we have as a group. Talked about that way back in the spring and all season about doing things. I deal with light them up. Coming in the building with a great attitude, and so you got your candle lit. So if somebody else is down and need a little pick me up, you can light those guys up. So we started doing that way back in the springtime. Carried that on throughout the summertime and fall camp about lifting each other up. We're gonna face adversity. There's gonna be some times where things gonna get down. We don't need to point the finger or get down on one another, but light them up. So that was huge. He did that right away. Noticed that right away. And Garrett did the same thing. Like I said, I remember mentioning it to you guys 2 weeks ago when we had the drops. He wasn't soaking and getting down on the guys. He was lifting them back up. Said we'll go get the next one. So that's just the togetherness we got in this offense and the chemistry those guys have amongst one another. And that was something that helped Nicco continue to move forward too.
Do you challenge your offensive linemen Tuesday and Wednesday in those heavy days, or do they know what's happened the last couple of games?
No, they know it. They know it. No, they absolutely know it. Yeah. Bless you.
Thank you. Speaking of that offensive line, obviously a lot of expectations for them. Have they lived up to what you thought?
There's no question. I'm so proud of those guys. It's funny because, we had 211 yards total offense. So did they, right? And I've said, to you guys here recently that great teams do what it is they do, even though teams know that's what they got to do to win ball games. And particularly when we lost Garrett, and they had a pretty good idea we weren't going to be able to pass the ball as much as we wanted to, and we were still able to control the clock and went down the trenches and run the football and be effective running the football. And that's what great teams do. And I thought up front, man, we were physical. And we moved people around and created space, created lanes against a very good defense.
Was it gratifying? I mean, they wanted to come in here and out-physical you and run it down your throat, and you ended up winning a game the way they wanted to play it.
Exactly right. Very gratifying. Not satisfied, very gratifying though. And we could have kept going, but to hear those guys, those offensive linemen say, "Coach, keep running the football." It was a couple of times where Coach Brown said, what's a good drive start? What's a good pass play? What's a good way to get it going?" And all the coaches across the board said that the best pass play is to hand the ball off to one of the running backs. And so, and those guys won it, man. That was good, and that's how we won that football game. I thought those guys trained. We were physical. I thought we out tough those guys, and And so they did a great job. We sustained it too. We started out that way and we finished that way. I'd love to finish that last drive in the end zone. That's probably the most dissatisfying thing, not to finish that last drive in the end zone.
Okay, anything else from Coach Scott?
Hey, Chad, just some guys that I think maybe not identified as like difference makers potentially, just taking time, but like Rodney, Jaheim a little bit, EJ got back to maybe last week isn't the week for some of those guys because of the circumstances. But
yeah, we got to get those guys going. We got to get those guys going, and we will. You know, definitely, because those guys, exactly what you said, they are difference makers with the ball in their hands. So we got to get those guys going. Obviously, you know, Jaheim, you know, speaking on my end, you know, did a phenomenal job 2 weeks ago with the ball in his hands. So we got to get those guys going, and we will. We'll get them back going.
Does it have to do with the quarterback thing last week? Not to make an excuse, but for example, it might not have been a game for Jaheim to run inside. I don't know, and like maybe EJ just wasn't ready for a game that wasn't going to pass a whole lot as it was.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a great block.
But we had some, and things work out like that sometimes. We had some ways to get in the ball, and you know, it came to certain situations where it didn't warrant that. Those particular ways of getting the ball with the way the game went and with Garrett going out. And so because we have some opportunities with Garrett in the game to take a lot more shots downfield, was hoping to be very successful doing that so we could open the game up a lot more and create some of the opportunity touches-wise we had for those guys. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So it kind of, you know, the game didn't work out as planned to get those guys going. Absolutely. I really do. It was a brawl. That's exactly what it was. And man, what an opportunity for those linemen to go out there and in a situation we know like that game plan didn't necessarily call for us to run the ball 51 times. However we did it, whether that's handing the ball off, you know, just looking at the final stats, it said 51. But they didn't call for us game plan wise to run the ball that much. But that's what it came down to. And so I thought those guys responded and they were resilient. I mean, they were hurting too. You know, we had some guys banged up and they did not want to come out of that football game. And when you got guys around them, those running backs in particular, and even the quarterback, when you see you big guys up there, you know, grinding it out and they're hurting and they're still going out there and being resilient and, you know, opening up holes for them, that makes you play that much harder. And so I thought the strain across the board was, you know, was elite. How about that? That's amazing. And you know, speaking of the 14 knockdowns, a couple of those knockdowns about 14 yards downfield. So that shows you the strain those guys were, you know, they was exhibiting, you know, running downfield, chasing the ball and blocking on the backside. But that's amazing, you know what I mean? So those, like I said, those guys they make us go. I've said that in this at this podium several times. That's the nuggets of our offense. I tell them that all the time, and I thought those guys answered the bell big time.
Can an offense play well angry, and do you channel that? Do you want them to play angry?
I do want them angry, and obviously you saw it with C.J. Donaldson. We don't want him to take his helmet off, but that's the kind of tenacity, that kind of attitude, that kind of grit. That's what we want those guys to play. That's what won that game for us Saturday. I mean, that was a gritty game. You know, you had no idea. I'm pretty sure looking at, you know, just sitting in the stands watching it, you had no idea how that game was going to turn out until the 000, you know, on the clock, you know, with the way it was going back and forth. But that's the kind of attitude we want to play with. They practice like that. I told those guys last week we won the game on Tuesday and Wednesday. We had great work days on both those days. I thought the focus was talked about it, you know, focus not being natural, and that they got to be intentional about it on Thursday and Friday. So Tuesday and Wednesday work days were really good. The Thursday and Friday focus days were, you know, elite. And so I told those guys we had already won the game on Tuesday and Wednesday, and so it was much more of a rehearsal. But to see those guys go out there and strain and, you know, be resilient and, you know, be able to pound the rock the way we pounded the rock and win with that kind of physicality was awesome.
Does that happen often? Can you think of other instances when it's been like that? Not consistently, not throughout the game. We've had times now where we have played like that, but from start to finish, first time. From start to finish, first time, no question.
Okay. Thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you, guys.